Today we're going to be talking about the concept known as befriending wakefulness, which is a really powerful tool that addresses insomnia right at its core. But before I start to describe what it is, it would help for me to reframe insomnia to help make this concept land. I'm going to say something that's going to sound a little strange, but bear with me. Insomnia is not a sleep problem, at least not directly. Insomnia is a fear problem, which becomes a struggle problem, which then creates a sleep problem. That's why you can throw all the sleep hygiene, supplements, whatever you want at it all day, every day, and still not see much success. Those are the wrong tools for the job. Like I said, insomnia at its core is ultimately a fear problem. We've developed a fear of being awake at night because that means we're going to feel terrible the next day. A much better tool that addresses the fear at the root level is to utilize this concept of befriending wakefulness, which all it's really doing at a high level is allow us to adopt a much healthier, sustainable, and easier outlook on being awake at night, from something that's terrifying and dangerous to something that is quite objectively peaceful and even enjoyable. We are no longer running away from being awake. That's where these long nights of uncomfortable struggle happen. We are instead voluntarily facing our fears by acknowledging that we are awake and recognizing that it's not so bad. Let's discuss some ways we can practically exercise befriending wakefulness. Sleep coaches will often suggest that a great way to begin befriending wakefulness is to pivot from trying and forcing sleep to happen at night towards a more enjoyable activity. For example, if tonight you are in bed and find that you're awake and you're tossing and turning and really struggling to make sleep happen, then you can turn this into an opportunity into doing something that you'd rather do, like watching a movie that you've been really excited about. You have all this free time after all, you might as well use it. Or if you're into reading, you can read or reread some of your favorite books. And this can happen in the bed, out of bed, on the couch, whatever. There's no wrong thing to do, there's no wrong place to be. It's literally whatever you feel like doing. Now, some follow-up points that people often throw at me is that they are so exhausted that something even as simple as watching a movie or reading a book can be too much, which is totally understandable. Sometimes those uncomfortable feelings are simply too much and can be really overwhelming. However, this is okay because there's another practical way we can befriend wakefulness if we're simply too exhausted to try those out, and that is just by simply resting. It is impossible to not be able to rest. Maybe you won't sleep, but you can always rest. We have no expectations. So long as we are resting and acknowledging that we are awake and that it is okay, we are on the right path. This is how I was able to personally start befriending wakefulness. I also found it helpful to make note of how objectively peaceful the whole setting was. The image of my dark bedroom at night was something that would previously give me a lot of stress because that meant I was awake at night and that something was wrong. But by instead seeing it for what it objectively was, which was a rather peaceful setting, and making note of it as an environment where nothing was really expected of me, this was simply my time to do whatever I wanted, that really helped me out. I really took the time to listen to the sounds around me. I personally became a big fan of listening and enjoying the sounds of crickets. That it really turned the experience into something that was not only quite peaceful, but also very enjoyable. And the great thing about befriending wakefulness is that it's a win-win situation. Even in the worst case scenario, if you don't get any sleep at all whatsoever, the hangover the following day isn't nearly as bad if you're befriending wakefulness, which makes sense if you think about it. If you take 7 hours of simply resting versus 7 hours of tossing and turning and stressing about trying to force sleep to happen, of course you're going to feel better in the first situation. Some things I want to clarify here. A lot of people will take the reading a book example of befriending wakefulness to heart, but they will interpret that as, if I read a book, I will fall asleep, or if I will force sleepiness to happen if I read the book. That's not the case, because that's just us chasing sleep. Instead, what we're doing is we want to try to make sure that we are genuinely enjoying the activity that is taking place. We're not using it as a means to chase sleep. We are instead filling our time of being awake as something we are teaching ourselves that being awake isn't scary. It can be something that's quite enjoyable. It is okay to be awake at night. Another thing I want to clarify here is that some people have a concern that they will enjoy their befriending wakefulness activity too much during the night and that it might do more harm than good. They'll ask themselves, wait a second, if I have too much fun, won't that wake me up even more? And this is really important because that gives us further evidence that the brain thinks that being awake at night is very dangerous. So dangerous that we can't even allow ourselves to have fun. And when we catch ourselves with that sort of thinking pattern, that's even more of an invitation to make peace with being awake at night. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please feel free to do the usual like, comment, subscribe stuff. Here I am, Insomnia to Peace. I provide coaching services for people looking to overcome their insomnia for good.